man who's going to be for the fourth straight year a sideline reporter for the Super Bowl on Westwood One's radio coverage of it, coast to coast. He is none other than Tony Boselli. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Tony. How do you see this one rolling a week from Sunday? What do you got for me here?
Well, we'll flip a coin.
Yeah,
and
right.
If it's heads, I'll pick San Francisco. If it's tails, I'll pick Kansas City. I have no idea. I mean, this is going to be a great game. I mean, it is so close. You got the great defensive line of the 49ers, and if they can affect Patrick Mahomes, who we've seen when they, kind of middle of the year, remember when the Chiefs' offensive line was beat up and they weren't healthy? And the offensive production went down because, you could get to him, you could affect him. And he's human. He's barely human. But if you get pressure on him and you hit him, it's going to slow that offense down. And the question is, can the Chiefs protect and hold up against that defensive line led by Nick Bosa, who's just a beast? And so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch and kind of see how this thing goes. And you got the track team for the Chiefs running around out there, scoring a bunch of points, and you have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. So I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, and Damian Williams coming to the fore, getting healthy, and then having a focus placed on the run thanks to his effectiveness might change things. And you called the AFC Championship game for Westwood One last Sunday, and it did seem like Kansas City decided we're going to run the ball in the third quarter, and that opened things up for the pass in the fourth to lay the hammer down. I'm wondering what you saw with your own two eyes on that front.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think the key to that game, Rich, was that last drive at the end of the half, that 27-yard run by Mahomes with about 15, 20 seconds left. Rashad Evans is spying Mahomes on that play. He has a chance to tackle him at the line of scrimmage. Probably holds him to a field goal, and you're going in tied. And that game, that changed everything. It almost was like all of a sudden you have the Titans who panic because for whatever reason, the guy who carried him to that position only got 3 carries in the second half. That's Derrick Henry. And then you look at the Chiefs, and they start controlling the clock. The very thing the Titans wanted to do, they were spreading out the Titans. The Titans were in coverage and trying to slow down Kelsey and Tyreek and the rest of that crew. And all of a sudden, Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid decide, hey, let's get Damian Williams a little inside-outside zone. And they did a great job of, shortening that second half and putting points on the board and making it really difficult for the Titans to get comfortable and do what they wanted to do, which is run it.
Do you think that could be employed against the Niners, or the Niners are just too much of a different animal?
Yeah, no, I think you can. I think you have to spread them out. I don't think you're going to – I mean, the Chiefs aren't built to get into, 12 personnel and big people where they just are going to run downhill on you. I mean, they set up their run with the pass game. And Mahomes is the best. I mean, he is unbelievable. And what he allows you to do, if you're the Chiefs, because he extends plays and makes plays with his feet, he has a rocket right arm, you get everyone spread out. You're worried about the speed. And so you start doubling, you start playing zone, you're trying to keep everything in front of you, and next thing you know, you get a weak box, so you get 6 in the box instead of 7. You got a man for a man, and then Damian Williams is going. And I think that's what you'll see them try to do.
Tony Boselli here on the Rich Eisen Show. What about the 49ers offensively? We saw Garoppolo only swing his arm 8 times, and then Raheem Mostert did most of the damage. What do you think about the Niners offense against this Chiefs defense, which is going to be perhaps the least talked about key for Super Bowl 54?
Yeah, I think, go back to that division round when they were playing the Vikings and Garoppolo threw that pick. And I think the number is, I think I got this right. It's not right in front of me, but 17. He's only thrown 17 passes since he threw that pick.
Yep.
And you look at that second half, they ran the ball against the Vikings, and they come out. And I thought they were going to be able to dominate the Packers. I don't think they're a great run defense. They haven't been all year. They've been pretty average. And they did. And so I love Kyle Shanahan's approach because everyone tries to pigeonhole him as like, you're a zone scheme guy. You're an outside zone. You like to play action pass, naked bootlegs. You're going to do this or that. And he basically says, listen, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And he has one of the most creative run games in the NFL. And they've won multiple ways. They've won running the ball. They're one of the best run teams in the NFL. They're physical up front. They've invested in the offensive line just like they have in the defensive line. But they have the ability also to open it up. You look at that Saints game, it was like, 50-48, something crazy. And and they threw it all over the yard, and Garoppolo was the reason they beat the Saints late in the season. So they have the versatility, and I think that's due to the fact that Kyle Shanahan is one of the most creative offensive guys. I mean, you have two offensive staffs, Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy for the Chiefs, that are as creative in what they do. It's different, but they're just fascinating to watch. So it's going to be a great matchup. I think the key for the Chiefs is going to be Chris Jones. He was a big difference in that AFC Championship game. He missed the division game because of the calf strain he had. We didn't think he was going to play in that game, kind of based on the feel you got on the field pregame. But he came out, played limited snaps, but he was a big reason. He started clogging up when he started playing more second quarter, third quarter. He was a force, made it hard for them to run the ball, made it really difficult for the Titans. And he's one of the better defensive tackles, both in the run and the pass, led the Chiefs in sacks. So I think he's critical, and how the 49ers handle him. And so, we're all going to be fascinated by this 49er defense, Chiefs offense. And that's all the talk's going to be up going to Super Bowl. But as you know, in these games, in these Super Bowl games, it's the unknown player. It's like which secondary player is going to step up. In this case, I think it's going to be on the two sides of the ball no one's talking about, Chiefs defense, 49ers offense, who can win that battle? Because we know the strengths, but these two units going at it, I think who gets the upper edge is going to go a long way of turning the game.
Well, I have the actual number. After Garoppolo threw that interception against Minnesota, he has thrown the ball only 14 times.
14 times.
14,
yeah.
that's it. They ran it 28 of their final 34 non-kneel down snaps in the game against Minnesota.
Yep.
And then they did what they did against the Packers. And
it's like 1958 football.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. But I guess when you've got the horses up front, I mean, I imagine the linemen must love it, right? They must love it, right?
I love this team. So, number one, John Lynch is one of my really good friends. I've known him since college. We played against each other, worked out in college, and kind of going into our pro career. So I've known him forever. But here's a defensive back. And look how him and Kyle built this team. They've invested. And it started a couple years before even John got there, but they invested. They have 4 first-rounders that rotate through the defensive line. They paid D Ford a pass rusher. So they have this defensive line that can rush the passer and play the run. And I think they have 3 or 4 first-rounders on the offensive line. I mean, this is where you win the game. I'm convinced. I mean, you have to have the quarterback. And Mahomes is top, 1, 2. And Garoppolo's in the upper echelon. I mean, he's top 10 quarterback, top 12, right around there. So you have to have that guy. But after that, Rich, if you can't control the line of scrimmage, I think it's hard to win. And the teams that get this far, year in and year out, are the teams who can control the line of scrimmage. And I love that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said, listen, we're going to invest in the big guys. And that's how we're going to win football games, and that's how they've done it all year.
Tony Boselli here on the Rich Eisen Show, the most experienced individual when it comes to being in the playoffs and having been to the Super Bowl before, even with just the one spot. It's Andy Reid. I mean, 28 postseason games as a head coach. Shanahan's just the first 2 this year. But, he is so wise beyond his years. I don't know if you saw the NFL Films footage from the NFC Championship game, Tony, where Kyle...
Yeah, he called the play out.
Where he goes up to the, I guess, was it the side judge, was it? Or was it just an official right there in front of him to basically say, my guy's going to run a pattern, he's going to get held. And he pointed out the exact player who's going to hold him. And that did, in fact, unfold. And the hold was called because it was obvious. But he also gave the official a heads up. I've called this play. He's going to run this route, and he's going to get held. And I saw that, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. I mean, what a remarkable asset that is for a team, Tony.
Well, I mean, listen, he's been doing this since he came out of the womb.
Right.
His dad, he's been been every training camp his dad ever was part of. He was on the ball boy. I mean, his dad's one of the great coaches, back-to-back Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos. And so he's learned and he's been around it and he's, started, I love that, everyone says, oh, it's nepotism and all this stuff. Well, the bottom line is the guy's a great coach. And he started, at the bottom and worked his way up, and he's had success in multiple places. And he's grown as a coach. And I think, while this is, his first, experience as a head man in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, he's watched his dad. He's been around it. He had the experience at Atlanta that was devastating, the way that game ended against the Patriots. And so he has experience, maybe not as the guy, but being in the situation as a coordinator and being around his dad. And I promise, my guess is, I would be shocked if it's not, that he's bending his dad's ear and picking his brain, bending these games, and has seen it. And so I'm really wildly impressed with Kyle Shanahan and what he's been able to do, and just the whole organization of how they've really kind of built this thing. And to me, it looks like it's built for long-term success.
Tony Boselli here on the Rich Eisen Show. Fans of this show are going to get a little sick of it by the end of next week, but I've kind of touched around the edges here, and I might later on when Paul Rudd joins here as well, since I know he loves Mahomes, as does everybody in Chiefs Kingdom. Part of me just deep down says, no matter how good the Niners are, and they are so very good, they're so very good, that Mahomes is just, you can't say the great equalizer. He has the ability to be the huge difference maker in the same way that Andy Reid's clock management issues from all those years have disappeared. Any problem that they had, you saw in the AFC Championship game, they totally blew that fake punt. I mean, the whole world knew that something might be up, and they totally fell for it. They took the banana in the tailpipe and then gave up a touchdown, and then Damian Williams runs out of bounds when they get the ball back, and essentially gave the Titans a timeout that they'd already used back. Who's the guy that erases all that? Patrick Mahomes. Who's the guy who scored at the end of the first half that you said was such a difference maker? It's Mahomes. Talk me out of not getting too crazy about that this is Mahomes' moment, Tony.
I can't. I mean, great quarterbacks cover a lot of sins by everyone else. I mean, they just blanket all these mistakes and all these tough situations that the average team can't get out of. Great quarterbacks, and Mahomes is a great one. And you go back to the year he was drafted, the Chiefs were sitting at 27. They have Alex Smith. They're a playoff team. And I give the whole front office and Andy Reid and everyone else in the organization so much credit. They traded a bunch to move up 17 spots for a kid out of Texas Tech that was on an average team that not a lot of people were talking about because they saw something in him, and they were right. Because this is a kid who has the leadership ability. He has the charisma. He has the athletic ability. He has the big arm. He's smart. You listen to how his teammates, his coaches talk about him. He's remarkable, and I can't talk you out of it. The only thing I will say is this. We've seen great offenses in Super Bowls before. I'll go back to one of the greatest offenses ever on one of the greatest teams ever, the 18-0 Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked mortal because of four guys. Because the four guys who rushed the passer for the New York Giants were all over him all day. And he never got comfortable, never could set his feet, and it turned into a low-scoring defensive game. And I think, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the 49ers are built that way. They can pressure with four. Robert Saleh can play coverage with seven in that three-deep zone and force Mahomes to be patient and hold the ball a little bit. And if that rush can get there, I think you could have a lower-scoring game than we expect. Now, the difference between Mahomes and Brady, both great. Brady's, we don't have to talk about what he's done, but Mahomes can move. And can he nullify and can he equalize the rush because of his athletic ability and buy time? If he's able to do that and extend plays, I think the Chiefs win. If that rush can get there, I think the 49ers win.
Tony Boselli here on the Rich Eisen Show. A couple more minutes left. You referred to that 07 Giants team. Their quarterback retired today. Do you think Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame, Tony?
Boy, it's trust me, I know this conversation. I'm in the middle of it.
I know
the last
you
4
are.
years as a finalist.
I know,
it's a
sir.
tough one. There's great players, and Eli Manning. Here's how I look at it: Eli Manning, one of the greatest postseason quarterbacks ever, 2-time MVP, leading the Giants to 2 Super Bowls. The detractors are going to say, yeah, he's 500 in the regular season. Can't argue that. But if you look at the story of the NFL, the great moments, great players who played big in great moments and over a long period of time, because he did it for 16 years, I would say yes, that Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer and will be in Canton one day.
Well, I hope you hear your name this weekend, and certainly it would be neat if it was with Lynch, since you said you know him for so long. That would be incredible, man.
It'll be incredible. As long as I might get a knock on the door, it'll be incredible. But you're right. It would be it'd be a little bit something extra special because John's a good friend and someone I've always been rooting for a long time. So I'm excited for him to be in the Super Bowl and what he's done with that team, and I hope both of us get into the Hall of Fame.
Me too, Tony. And you've been great. I really enjoy listening to you on the radio. You get better and better every year. It's a terrific listen. And, we'll definitely be knocking on your door in short order, hopefully next week.
Sounds good, Rich, and I'll see you in Miami.
See you in Miami. That's Tony Boselli, Westwood One.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.